Netflix is losing much more than subscribers. Much more. It's losing much more than shows. It's lost something even more vitally important than that. Let's talk about it. Here we go. Let's start here with an article from The Guardian. That's right, over in the UK. And they're talking about the facts that Netflix is losing shows, losing some very important shows. In fact, Netflix faces losing licensed hit shows to streaming rivals. Well, of course, because they were the ones that, had them crafted to begin with. It's pretty extraordinary how many shows were crafted that Netflix just utilized through licensing the IPs. That's the way syndication works, except now everybody has a streaming service, and so that has to go away. And Mark Sweeney writes on Monday, Netflix faces the threat of an exodus of a number of hit shows as it battles to reignite subscriber growth. Yeah, because they're about to lose 2 million more plus. Let me tell you, that's unusual for them to tell you that like they did in their last quarterly, but I think it's a sign of the times and a beginning of a trend for Netflix, but I'll keep going. Earlier this month, Netflix market value was slashed by almost $60 billion as investors panicked that the decade-long streaming boom has come to an end. Well, it has, and we'll get to that in just a moment, but I'll continue. Netflix invests billions of dollars annually on original content, starting with House of Cards in 2013, which I thought was a brilliant show. And of course, it's just recently had hits such as Squid Game, Ozark, and Bridgerton. In the long term, the strategy has helped them prevent the impact of when Hollywood rivals are pulling their TV and film projects to their own services. So it's been helpful, but it's not fast enough, at least in my opinion. Research does show that Netflix continues to have a significant dependency on licensed content, which it does. It's getting from other markets outside of the United States. In the first 2 months of this year, 31% of the 150 most viewed shows by British users, at least according to this article, belong to Netflix's competition. Again, 31%. It's nearly a third. It's a lot. That's a lot. This is a quote from Richard Broughton saying, "There is certainly risk for Netflix," he says. "A significant number of the highest performance titles are licensed from studios with in-house streaming ambitions of their own. Friends, the biggest show that there ever was on Netflix, at least if you talk to some people, is the most popular show among British viewers and Netflix's biggest hit globally. It's already been removed by Warner Brothers Discovery in the United States, with other such hits such as The Big Bang Theory to drive, obviously, traffic to their own platform, HBO Max." Of course, this is a famous tweet that they show here, and takes us back to 2019, warning us that this was going to happen. Of course, HBO Max has yet to launch in the UK with the Warner Brothers Discovery merger completely locked in. They are going to be distributing until 2025, at least according to this article. Sky owner Comcast has also removed big hits such as the US version of The Office, but it has so far decided not to launch it as a standalone streaming rival to Netflix in the UK. So right now, not as big a worry, but it's coming. This summer, Paramount is launching Paramount Plus in the UK. In fact, you can now get Paramount Plus, Paramount movies and stuff like that already in different parts of Europe and the UK's neighbors. They've almost completely removed the Star Trek franchise from Netflix. That's true, that deal's about to expire. However, Netflix's original strategy continues to be hugely successful with shows like we mentioned, Ozark, but of course Stay Close, Anna, Cobra Kai, and films including Power of the Dog, Don't Look Up, and Red Notice. Well, of course. Now, these titles, they do pretty well as originals. I mean, they are somebody else's IP that you're licensing to get produced, but at the same time, you're replacing things that, are studio pictures. These companies spend a lot of money on them, and some of these mega TV series that, again, the studios paid a lot of money for. Of course, the recent slowdown in streaming has prompted a number of investors and executives to revisit poor assumptions about how large the siloed direct-to-consumer model can become. Yeah, it doesn't work well. They're finding this out now. You get to scale with everything and it gets bad. Anyway, I'll keep going. So it's not clear at all that Netflix will lose access to all major studio content in the future. I suspect a number of majors won't take the same purist angle adopted by Disney and will instead take a lot more mercenary approach, windowing titles and licensing content to third parties where they can achieve solid rights fees. And I think that's probably the wisest strategy going forward for the major studios. I really am surprised Disney's not doing that, but I don't know. And here you can see the list of the 10 top shows in the UK, starting with Friends, then Big Bang Theory in third, and of course Afterlife and The Office, and of course, Cobra Kai there in ninth place. But there's a lot of overlap when it comes to interest in these American shows, and I'm just not surprised. Of course, they're losing subscribers, but that's at the end of the day not really what the problem is. What the problem is coming to us from, well, Variety, and it's a column, so the columnist did a great job here. It's titled "Netflix Lost Subscribers, but it really lost something larger. Call it mythology." I agree. They lost that unattainable air around them. The predators are circling, even though they know that they have their own potential doom waiting out there in the wings. Anyway, I'll read the article. Pretend it was 1 year ago when the streaming revolution stoked by the pandemic. When is a pandemic good for business? Well, this time anyway. It was feeling very flush with the new paradigm that ate the world. Obviously, the global crisis. And pretend that it's spring of 2021 that you'd be asked to imagine how a film industry headline from the future might read. You would probably have predicted something like, and again it goes on with pretty good ones, for the first time every Oscar nominee comes from a streaming service, okay? Or maybe this, movie theaters still here but no longer driving the action. Interesting. Of course, that's not actually what's running, and they cite what is as far as that goes. And this is a very good read. I'm not going to go through it all. But what's very interesting, again, is not just the loss of subscribers. It's that word they talked about, mythology. They're now not, let me put it this way, they're not considered unbeatable. That's a bad place for them to be. In fact, according to the article here, Netflix is navigating what is arguably the worst crisis in its 25-year history. The image of Netflix has been the unstoppable locomotive of the new age of entertainment, at least the entertainment industry, which took a massive hit. And if those headlines provided the words in last week's CinemaCon, the annual gathering of the motion picture industry, added the music. Boy, did they. All of it coming together in a hit single that went like this. Movie theaters are back, baby. And boy, are they. Ultimately, this article gets around to the main thread that we all understand deeply, but businesses don't get at all, which is that people sitting at home watching a first-run movie is a plan based on downgrading the fundamental magic of the product itself. It makes it less exciting, less magical, and less mythological. I couldn't agree more. In fact, it's a terrible, terrible business plan and eliminates 4 other potential streams of revenue, which, let me tell you, these studios are gonna need. As money gets more expensive to borrow and may be coming into a position of short supply, they really, really need to focus on profitability. Maybe they... Of course, the most famous movie quote of all times, or at least about the movie business itself, is from William Goldman, who said, "Nobody knows anything." And boy, let me tell you. Of course, ultimately, we arrive to one of the main and more salient points of this particular column, which is what Netflix has been selling and mythologizing is that a movie seen at home has as much value as a movie seen at the theater. It is a different kind of value. That's all it is. One that we have to all get used to. And for a couple of years, I would say they were probably really excited to pursue that path. Of course, Netflix succeeded in defining the streaming revolution through the yardstick of its own preeminence, which I think is bad. We call that hubris sometimes. And the pandemic allowed us to give that model the ultimate road test of new normality. I really hate that saying. Netflix and chill, of course, morphed into stay home and why leave? Ever. many bought into that fantasy of what life would now be like. And unfortunately, people still have to work. They have to make money. They have house payments to pay, rent to pay, they have food bills, energy bills, all kinds of things like that. You can't sit at home and just watch Netflix. It doesn't work. Who's going to make the Netflix? I mean, everybody has to have a job. Come on. Of course, originally, and as the article calls out here, that Netflix basically marketed itself from the very beginning as the only streaming service that you would ever need. And it would essentially try to replace the biggest movies with the sheer bigness of Netflix itself. The mythology said, "Here in your own home is the only megaplex that you will ever need, the Netflix smorgasbord." And since the vaunted Netflix business model was literally intended to rewire the whole world, signing up every consumer on Earth as a subscriber, once you became part of the Netflix family of entertainment, and you became couch potatoes is what it says here, you would now be seeing what everybody else is seeing, which is part of the dream of what movies are. Well, they were also, of course, becoming their own undoing, because by normalizing streaming the way that they did and proving that it could become a profitable model, it ended up with competitors like Disney Plus, Hulu, Apple TV, and so many more, including Paramount and, gosh, HBO Max. I'm telling you, Netflix's bad Q1 is likely to be repeated in Q2. Look, they've lost so much more than I could possibly describe or this article could even convey. It's really brought into stark relief that, as I'll quote here from Jeff Rolderzak, streaming appears nearly fully penetrated globally post-COVID. You know what that means? There's no more growth. We're done. And I have to agree. I think we all saw this coming. Eventually, there would be a time when everybody that wanted a streaming service would have one, and you would be able to trade out of a streaming service that was not meeting your needs, even if you had to do that on a monthly basis. I think these companies leaned too hard into this, and I think it's cost them an awful. Anyway, what do you think? Do you think that Netflix lost more than subscribers? Do you think they lost their mythology? Do you think that this article's right and my assessment is right and we've simply reached the maturity date of streaming? Think there's still some more growth out there? Do you think there's some more financial growth out there? See, I think that's going to be the limiting factor, is the money. Not just of the studios themselves and the streaming services themselves, but of course of the consumers. Because really, how many streaming services do you want? Anyway, feel free to use the comments section down below. Give me your thoughts. I hope this was a fun Tech Tuesday article, and I look forward to doing more of those. But of course, support other independent creators here on the platform. The corporate content creators get favorability. Let's try to turn the tables and give the independents our views. And let's share out the content. Let's like it. Let's, of course, make comments to increase engagement, and subscribe to the content creators that you really enjoy, because if they're doing a good job, they probably deserve it. And with that, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, wash your hands, of course, because it's good hygiene. And until next time, bye.
Hey there, one last quick note before I let you go, and before we make it to the end of this video. I, CultureCasino, have a brand new Teespring store. That's right, you can now go to Teespring, look up CultureCasino, or use the link in the video below, and pick out some handsome and beautiful CultureCasino merchandise with many different designs and styles and colors, many different items. I was actually surprised at all of the things that you could create, and I have some more designs and items on the way here shortly. But, if you want to support the channel in that way, there is some merch. Otherwise, here comes the ending. Thanks for visiting today. Be sure you're subscribed and hit that for alerts.
Yay!
Of course, like and share all of the videos that you can, as it helps with the algorithm. Have a great day.